Don't even think you might be able to have it under control, because it will get you every single time. It's one of the biggest challenges, I think, for most men, I don't want to say all, is lust, right? Pornography. It's everywhere. It's in ads. You can block it as many times as you want through your Instagram, your social media, and they'll find a way to get it to you. You do that enough, which is wrong in itself, because we have a self-control issue, that could start out with just porn, but it could also go into an actual physical relationship with someone else. And that's where you've got to be careful. You got to put it under their blood. And I didn't think I'd go this way. And I think it's important, especially for men, is to confess what we struggle with to a brother. Mm-hmm. Right. If I'm keeping it in the dark and you can't see it to help me, that's bad for everybody. So if we can develop those relationships with other men and with trusted, spiritual, godly men, to tell them, hey, I'm struggling with this, now you're not alone. Now you and your brother can go before the Lord in prayer for strength or whatever's needed to overcome that.
Well, you think back in the 50s and 60s, it was radical to show on I Love Lucy, Ricky and Lucy in the bedroom in two separate beds. The CBS studios were getting these nasty letters. I can't believe that you're showing them in a bedroom together. And they were in two separate beds. And the stuff that we're seeing or normal national television, airwave television shows that we're seeing in today's
realm.
We're not even talking HBO. We're talking like CBS, NBC, the major networks.
Stuff that you can pick up with an antenna.
It's rough, but that's why we got to stay on our guard. And it's easier to fight the enemy with a brother, because the enemy's been doing this way longer than we have. And not that I'm giving him credit for it, but he's good at it. We've talked about several times, look at great heroes in the Bible. Look at David.
Yeah, you talk about somebody that had to deal with lust.
Right. And that's why it's important for us to be renewed every day. We need to decrease. Our actions and our lives need to decrease so he can increase. And we should be walking in the Spirit. And if we're not walking in the Spirit and by his guidance, it's incredibly amazing to watch how fast you can get further and further away from God. Now, as soon as you turn back, he's embracing you and accepting you, and everything will be okay. But if you're not careful, you can really hurt yourself in the process of falling out. And it can get scary.
It absolutely can. One of the things that I hit on last week in the Yes Man Talks was about in 1 John 5:16, where it says, any man who sees his brother a sin which is not unto death. There's a lot of confusion about what is a sin unto death. Mm-hmm. And I dug into that and the fact that the sin unto death is blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. And I think that we can get down a rabbit hole talking about sin and start propping up sin to the point where people think that they've committed a sin unto death. But unless there's been a blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, the sins can be forgiven.
So, and I've always wondered, how do you know? And I heard a sermon, it might have been a year ago, maybe 6 months ago. And it was, if you're even wondering if you've done it, you have it.
Yep.
Because if you're wondering, or if you've committed that sin, you no longer care what you do. You will have no remorse for anything. So if you care, if you're like, oh, I hope I didn't say something or encourage that or push that message, and you have some guilt over it, I'm losing the word, conviction over it, you didn't do it. And that's a good, easy test. And but that's what's so amazing about the Holy Spirit, is he will let you know where you stand. You just have to ask. You have to dive into his word to understand how he's going to talk to you. But all you got to do is ask, and he's there to meet you and help you through it.
Well, you brought up a huge point with conviction. So as long as you're being convicted.
It took me a minute to get to it. But
as long as you're being convicted, then the Holy Spirit's still working. And the Bible talks about, I don't have the reference, but how your conscience is seared. Mm-hmm. And what happens to that is it goes back to habitually sinning. When you habitually sin, and the first time you do it, the first time you talked about pornography, the first time that you look at a pornographic image, you feel that conviction there. But then when you look at it again, you realize nothing really happened. No one walked in. Your wife didn't walk in seeing you do it.
Yep.
And then you look at it again. Then that conviction goes away, because you're now starting to sear that piece of your spirit. with habitually looking at that over and over.
Wrong, but it's not. You're not going to lose your salvation.
No.
But you're not going to get the spiritual life until that gets under control, and it's only going to get under control at that point is through the Holy Spirit and help from brothers.